nation I'll win. Oh, 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 yeah. Oh, yeah. Now listen, I want y'all to repeat after me, okay? Because we're going to make some declarations in here today. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. I'm building my legacy for the whole world to see. You say, I'm building my legacy for the whole world to see. Say.
All right, so I know you guys are feeling full of inspiration, motivation, empowerment, belief, all those great things, because our phenomenal women guests have just blown me away. And I know that you have been moved by the fact that they have had the courage to pursue things that perhaps weren't on their radar initially, but they were willing to show up in the space and willing to expand and willing to explore things that they perhaps never ever thought that they would do. But, you know, I believe in something called divine orchestration, and I believe that God will divinely orchestrate you exactly where you're meant to be. That's how you talking to Cheryl Wood, international speaker now, because I started off as Cheryl Wood selling t-shirts. We were like, wait a minute, how did you go from t-shirts to speaking? It was divine orchestration. It was that very first opportunity back in 2010 when Morgan State University said, hey, we heard about your t-shirt business. Would you come to our women's conference and teach a class to other moms in the Baltimore community about how to start their own businesses? And I felt so unqualified. I was like, they must have dialed the wrong number. They cannot possibly be looking for me. Speaking is not even on my radar. But I decided, just like we just talked to Sharice, I decided to say yes to the opportunity to explore. And it was that day, September 18, 2010, at Morgan State University, I discovered I was born to speak. That was my gifting to the world. And that's how I was going to leave my unique fingerprint. So we have another amazing guest who's going to close things down for us today. Her name is Felice Pope. She's a transformation catalyst who helps to pull your broken pieces together through her Peace, P-E-A-C-E, guys, Peace in Living Today Inner Circle, where she provides assistance to those who are dealing with depression, broken relationships, physical well-being issues, and financial instability. No matter how broken you feel right now, your broken pieces can be repaired with Felice's step-by-step program and guidance to sustain a stained glass living. The title of her acclaimed book, Stained Glass, Smile, You Can Be Healed. Welcome to the show.
Well,
so good to see you.
It's good to see you again.
So a transformation catalyst. Tell me what that really means. What is it that you do for people? How do you help people, and what's the solution that you really provide?
What the solution I normally provide, we try to look at what's happening in their life, and not so much as I should say clinically depressional, the emotional side, because I'm not a clinical doctor, but I do know that because I went through that. I didn't go through a doctor.
Right.
I had not a lot of mentors, but I had God to help me, and so God kept saying, you need to write this book. And I kept saying, God, I can't write this book because everybody's going to see all my personal business. And
put your business out the street.
I don't want my mama and my dad, and the children to know. So, but God said, your story can help someone.
Yeah.
And so I kept saying, okay, so this is what you want me to give back? Right. I just can't, pray for, because I'm a minister in the church. And I said, well, maybe I just pray for him. He says, no, it's bigger than what you think. So what we do is we help walk them through step by step at a pace that they could keep up with. Because a lot of times you'll go through a program and people just rush you through it. Okay, give me your money and that's done. No. When you're talking about mentoring, I've been mentoring, I should say, through the power of God to different women. And people will come up and say, how do you smile like that? I know your home is broken. How can you come to church and still smile? I said, because it's God that does it. Because if it was me, I'd run away and hide from the world. But because I have 4 beautiful children God's blessed me with, I need them to see that when things happen in your life, you don't fall out, you fall in God.
Very powerful. You don't fall out, you fall into God and into his shield of protection, if you will. I love that. So it seems like that's been a recurring theme today, is really talking about sharing your story and telling your truth. Yes. Even when it's not so pretty. Yes. And I believe that our story, really, our story, I say this all the time, your story is about you, but it ain't for you. And what I mean by that, when I say that, is you went through it, you went through the mess, the ugliness of it sometimes, the trauma, the drama. So yeah, it's about you because you went through the journey, but it's not for you, meaning when you keep all of the lessons that you learn to yourself, that's just selfish.
Right.
So it's really meant for you to share with someone else,
Right.
yes, sometimes in this ugliness, so that somebody else can believe that there's hope beyond
Yes.
what they're currently going through. They can see a model of someone else who went through it and overcame. Now they're on the other side of it. And then I believe it's a freeing process. It's freedom for you because you're getting that out.
Yes.
And it's freedom for someone else who is currently going through. So tell us your story in a nutshell that really led to the book.
What really happened? I was in the military for some years.
Wow, thank you for your service. Beautiful.
And as a soldier, you can't tell your commanders that you're being abused, especially as the sponsor, because most of the time they send the family and the spouse away, or they'll separate them. But because at that time it's just my daughter, I kept saying, God, I got to hide this, and I got to be strong. And because I was in denial, because I didn't get any broken bones. I got a scratch here and there. I grew up in St. Louis, and St. Louis was the #1 murder capital when I was a kid for years.
Wow.
So I would see people get beat up and they, go straight back into it. So I'm like, there's nothing wrong with me.
Wow.
There's nothing wrong with me. I have to protect my family. And until the divorce happened, I began to be, like, I'm the failure. But God's like, you're not a failure. You're a success in me. You just made a wrong decision. You tried to stay, but there's nothing wrong with you. You're in me, and I'm in you, so that makes you greater. The greater's in you, so I'm calling you to a greater calling than you just sitting here being sad and depressed. And so I began to say, God, I need your help. Because I fake it with my kids. Mommy's fine, but kids can feel that on the inside of you.
Oh, yeah.
Mom, are you sure? I'm fine. And when they would leave, I'd just lay in the bed all day. God, I need your help.
Yeah, it's definitely a
need
recurring
your help.
theme. That's what we talked about. I don't know if you heard Janice talking about her story of grief. She lost her dad, she lost her mom, then she lost her sister, who she hadn't spoken to in 6 years. And there was just so much grief around that, and she was depressed. But as we were talking about it, we said, especially as women, we have that habit of, how you doing? I'm fine. No, you're not fine. You're wearing a mask.
Right.
And we oftentimes are taught to keep it to ourselves, keep
That's
our business
right.
to ourselves. We don't put our business in the street.
That's
We don't
right.
tell nobody what's going on in this house, right?
Right.
And so I believe there are a lot of women who are suffering with depression and
Yes.
brokenness and being battered and bruised because they're taught to keep it in. And it is, like you said, it's almost like a condemnation of yourself.
Yes.
Like there's something wrong with you that you did it. So talk about, are there steps that you take women through who are in that process where they are battered, they're broken, they're bruised, but they need healing? How do they even get started? Like, what's the starting point?
The first thing I would tell them is you have to recognize that this is not your fault. Though this is your life, you might have stayed because financial support. Maybe you
Right.
stayed because, okay, get up and leave. Well, where are they going?
Right.
You have 3 or 4 kids. Where are you going?
Yeah.
They're in school. You got to move them. So first we tell them, listen, identify that this is not your fault. Then let's get you help. Because you can identify it's not your fault, but if you don't get the help, and I tell them, we're not telling everybody your business. This is something secret. Just come into the circle, and everything's private. We don't know who you are, especially on social media. You can be anybody.
Right.
So you can be anybody on social media.
And it's a lot of fakers out there. It's a lot of pretenders. That's so true.
Then we say, okay, now let's talk about it. Or if you don't want to talk, but let's listen about it. These are the scriptures that I use to help me. These are the methods that we change your mindset. Because if I can change your mindset, I can change the way you see things. If we can change the way you see things, then the things you look at will change. If I can give you some hope through the Word of God, because that's my hope. That's the ultimate hope that we deal with as Christians. And I tell them, I said, there's no other strength that I know of. There's no other person I know that can heal. There's no other person I know that can do that for me but God. And so we walk them through that steps. And then we let them know, listen, there's talents inside of you. You're beautiful, fearfully, wonderfully made by God, and He's giving you all these gifts. So let's explore one at a time to get you to the place where you can be strong enough to stand on your own and not turn around and go back.
Yeah. You said so many pivotal things there. So number one, the step is to identify that it's not your fault. It's not about you. It's somebody else's lack that's causing them to behave in whatever way that they're behaving that's impacting you in a negative space, in a negative way. So I think that's very critical. But then you link that to the mindset piece, which is so important in anything that we're going to accomplish in life. Anytime we're going to forge ahead beyond something that's difficult or challenging, it really is about what we're telling ourselves over and over and over again. And sometimes you need to be in this type of inner circle or support group, like we've been talking about all day, your front row, your inner circle of people who are reminding you that you're amazing, that you're great, that you're powerful, that you are courageous and bold, and you have what it takes to move forward. And so I think that is just brilliant, the work that you're doing to reaffirm, let's call it reaffirmation.
Yes.
The reaffirmation that you give to women to believe you can make it beyond what you're currently going through. Even with myself growing up, I grew up in an environment where my dad suffered from alcoholism, and he used to become very violent when he got drunk.
Yes.
And so I went through this whole process as a child of seeing my dad get drunk, and then, you know, he's fighting my mom, and then she puts him out, and then he goes outside and he's busting the windows in our apartment, and then the police get called and he goes to jail. I mean, I saw that so many times I can't even count. And when you see that so many times, you start to think that's normal.
That's normal.
Right? And then it's so hard. And I this is what I found with my mom. It was so hard for her to leave that environment because it became her normalcy.
Yes.
And then you pass that on to your children who see it and think it's normal, that you argue, he gets drunk, he beats you up, and then he goes to jail, and then you go visit him in jail and take him socks and cigarettes.
Yes.
So it's like it is this vicious cycle that can continue if you don't nip it in the bud, and if you don't have people who are really fueling your mindset to say you deserve more, you deserve better. So give us other tips. What are other things that women can do in terms of, number one, they acknowledge that it's not their fault, and then I think you gave us number two, which is to start getting help by being in a group or inner circle of people who are reaffirming that you can move beyond this. Is there anything else that you would encourage women to do who are going through a phase of broken relationships or any type of depression?
Positive affirmation was what I was going to say when you were saying that. Because I can be in a group, you can be in an AA Al-Anon, you can go to church and you experience God, but you still got to go home.
That's so true, right.
Okay, so church is only maybe an hour or two, depending on where you're going, maybe 3 or 4 hours, depending. But I have to go home. So put affirmations up. I have affirmations over my wall, and I would have scriptures over my wall. Even when my former husband would come home, I would tell myself, God, help me get out of this. And when you do, show me how to stay strong. Because oftentimes we fall back in that pity party. Well, I feel so sorry for them, and they're going to be without me. And, they give you that same, turn that negative off. Look at yourself and see God created me for better. The better part of me has not been discovered because I'm in this situation. Doesn't mean it's my end. This may be my beginning, but I've got to get out of this situation and find some help. Domestic violence shelters. Find a friend. However you do it, I always tell people pray about it, because you don't know what type of abuser you're dealing with. Because some people can say, oh, fine, I don't care, you're leaving, and you leave, and that's the end of your life.
Right.
So I always tell people, get help. Make a map, a plan. Run it past someone who has professional, because like I said, I'm not certified, but I know we can help you in ways that you might not be able to always talk to the domestic violence hotline 24/7.
Right.
You might not want to share all your personal business because you might be on the phone and they hear you, but you can be on social media, be in Peace and Living Inner Circle, and we can help people. So I tell them, make a plan. Stick to the plan and look at the future, the end of it. What is the end that you want to see? Declare that end from the Bible says that God declares the end from the beginning and the beginning from the end. So what do you want your end result to be? Vision boards are good, but you have to have a mental picture in your mind before you even put it on the board.
Absolutely. You got to visualize, what it is that you want. As you mentioned, you have to see, Zig Ziglar says, you have to see the reaching in your mind before it ever manifests, right?
Yes.
So it's very important that we think about what is the thing that we really want to manifest in the end of it. I love that. That's a powerful technique, visualization technique. And so when they come into this inner circle, first of all, how do they get into the inner circle? How do they connect with you? And then my question beyond that is, when they come into the inner circle, is it, because you mentioned a lot about confidentiality and space where you pour into them, but is it a combination of individual kind of coaching and supporting and group support?
It's both.
Tell us more about it.
What I would tell people to reach out to me on my website, FeliceRenee.com, and they can go through that and they can reach out there, or they can find me on Facebook, Peace and Living Today, because it started off as a radio broadcast. And when Facebook has those restrictions sometimes, since the page has been so long that way, it can't. But there's also Peace and Living Inner Circle that they can reach out and they can sign up for the page and we can get them through that program. But then I also do individual as the person needs or how my time goes. But it's both, depending on the need of the person. Because like you said earlier, my capability, I can't handle everybody.
Yeah, you don't have the capacity. It doesn't matter how amazing you are.
Yes,
what you do. Yeah, absolutely.
It depends on the needs of the person. And then I'm always led by God because I don't like to think that, because I'm a Christian, I can just reach everybody. No, whoever God leads me to.
Yeah.
And there's certain people that text me sometimes during the night, and I'll get, okay, give me a minute to wake up,
right.
And then I'll give them something and say, well, thank you, I don't want to disturb you or something like that. But I let them know, listen, as a minister, Jesus was available 24/7. And so how he leads me, that's how we take them. But the group is open to anybody. But, it's also, like you said, there's a little fee that goes with that. But a membership, it's like a membership fee. So,
okay.
But they can reach out to me at Peace and Living Today, or they can reach out at Peace and Living Inner Circle.
Okay. So you guys, you have the information. Make sure if it's not applicable to you, do you know someone who needs it?
Yes.
I think a big part of really being a sisterhood is not just looking at something and say, oh, I don't need that, I'm good, and you turn the channel, right? It's, oh my God, I know a sister who really could benefit from that. And sometimes we don't know we need it.
Yes.
Right? How do you get through to women who they're in a space of, like how when women are in love at first, like you can't see the truth, but everybody else can see the truth. Sometimes when you need to get out, you can't really see the truth. Other people can see the truth and they can see the detriment that is happening to you. Is there a way that you're able to reach women who are in that space where they really need to get out, but maybe it is fear. Maybe it's fear for their life, or number two, maybe it is fear of the lack of financial stability because they become dependent upon whatever that situation is financially. Is there a way that you're able to reach them, or do you just say, well, we just encourage them, but we leave it alone? How do you handle that?
Well, what I normally do is I do the book. The book is like a non-confrontational invitation.
I love that. Say that again. Say that again. That's so good. That's so good.
It's a non-confrontational invitation. And what I normally do is I give them a free chapter. You can go get the free chapter at the website, FeliceRenee.com. And most of the time, if people think that's them, they'll buy the book. Or I'll tell people, buy the book. Because I know just for myself, you coming up asking me, well, I see you and your husband fighting and screaming, and you know how sometimes people do. Yeah. You be like,
yeah.
Because you don't want the abuser to know that somebody's in the business, because that's going to cause more.
Exactly. Yes.
So you try to keep everything on a low key. And the book's called Stained Glass Smile, You Can Be Healed.
Right.
It doesn't say anything about mask or abuse or anything.
Yeah,
so as you start reading it, it's about my life, but it also gives examples of the other people. So I'm asking, is this you in the book? If this is you in the book, you need to get help. Is this you? Because I want you to know that if this is you, you need help.
Again, it goes right back to the power of telling your story, whether it's verbally, whether it's through the visual art like Sharice, whether it's through in writing. Like, telling your story can save somebody. It can free them. It can save them. And so if you have a powerful story, which all of us do, you need to be sharing your truth. And I always tell people that it's important that you tell your story, because one or two things happen. If you don't tell your story, right, either number one, it doesn't get told, which that's a big piece of your legacy that now gets lost. Right. Or number two, it gets told from somebody else's perspective.
Yes.
I don't want nobody telling my story. No, I got this. I'm gonna tell what happened. You ain't got to tell it. I'm gonna tell it, right? Yes. So my father, he passed away in 2009. He passed away on Thanksgiving Day, and he never told his story, right? So now my father's story either will never be told, or it will be told from my perspective or my sister's perspective or one of his sister's perspective, one of his last living sisters. But it was so amazing how much stuff came out about my father after he passed. Because again, in the African American community, it's like, oh, we don't tell our business, we won't talk about it. So then after he passed, I found out all of this about abuse that he had experienced, which undoubtedly led to the person that he had become and relying on alcohol as the thing that would numb his pain. So I never knew this. Growing up my entire life, I just thought my father was crazy. He was crazy, but I didn't know what was behind that. Right. And I didn't find out until the man, he's gone. So all of us really owe it to ourselves to share our story. And I love that you have put it in the book, this non-confrontational invitation to read your story, but then your story is about you, but it ain't for you, to impact somebody else's life through that written story.
Yes.
Powerful, very, very powerful. Tell us one more time how people can connect with you. And you guys, if you know someone, because, you know, sometimes we do know folks who need the help and need the support, but they're not going to reach out. And maybe you as a friend or a support system can just recommend, or you can buy the book for them. How about that? You buy the book, and then that can perhaps usher them into the space that they need for help and support and for healing.
Okay, they can go to Felice Renee, that's FeliceRenee.com. And they can buy the book under the Shop for Now tab. And they also can find me on Facebook under Peace and Living Today. And that's my social site. You can find me at Felice Renee Inc. on Twitter. And I think that's it, basically. I don't do a lot of other social media.
Well, I always say Google her, because all of my guests are Google-licious,
yes,
Hunty.
Google.
You can just put their name in Google and you will find them. So any closing words before we wrap up?
I do want to say that if you are in a domestic violence relationship, get help. Don't stay there. Reach out to someone. And if you know someone and you see it's getting help and you're not getting through them, buy that book. It is a non-confrontational invitation, because the last thing you want to do is to cause any further harm to them by embarrassing them, because in that state you can be suicidal. Mm-hmm. And we have lost too many people already to suicide in our community. We've lost too many people through abuse. So please, if you know someone in that situation, if that's you, I encourage you to buy the book and go get help, because God loves you and you're important to him. And he made you for a reason, more than just what you are now. So if you could see your future, it's a lot brighter than what you think it is. Okay?
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you for being with us. I love your mission and your vision. It's necessary. It's important. And I think every one of us has a divine assignment. Yes. And I can't do the work that you do. I can't do the work that Sharice does. Everybody has their divine assignment. You guys hear me talk about Amina McWhirter all the time. She's one of our partners here. And she has her organization Love by the Handles. And she also works with domestic violence survivors and people who are transitioning. And I had an event with her, hosted an event, and I just was like, by the end of that, it was just an evening. It was just an evening event, y'all. And by the end, I was just like, why I am not equipped for this type of work. So you have to be a special person to be equipped and divinely equipped for this work. And so I thank you for how you serve the world and serve the community, and thank all of our guests who are with us today. You guys, we will be here again next Wednesday, same time, same place, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. Keep being amazing, and make sure that you are using your unique gift to impact the world. We'll see you next week.
We have powerful words, we have powerful minds. We use our voices and freedom takes flight. And we're ready to work, we're ready to win. We have a strategy and now we can begin. We are standing bolder, shoulder to shoulder. Playtime is over. Playtime is over. Now you are a champion. God is my witness. Imperfect perfection. Living my mission and winning. See, we are influencers. We have fear but don't stop. I have the confidence to run.